All right, in this episode, we talk about training pitchers young
and how their technique is more important than their speed.
All right, Brent Porsa here at the @TopVelocity #PitchAndTips Show. I got the DA53. That's his Twitter handle, the David Ardsma, as I call him. I'm here to help out with a great question for today. If you'd like to be on the show, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @TopVelocity #PitchAndTips.
Or even your question, maybe.
Yes.
Or you can come get
right,
here
your
and
question.
Get on the show.
We're not going to actually put you on the show. We'd love to. If you want to come here and get on the show, we'd love to do that. But if you have a question, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @TopVelocity #PitchAndTips. Ask your question. We'll answer it on the show. You could also put the DA53. He might answer your question. And
I'm pretty good about it.
I might put it on the show. Yeah, he's pretty good at it. All right, so what's the question for today? Brett Roundtree asks, I have an 8-year-old that throws mid-50s to 60. What are some drills I can use to make him get better with location and keep velocity? Okay, I'll start off. I'm going to basically, you know what? I want David to start off. I think he has a better position, and then I'll put in my input on that. So you start off. What's the issues with an 8-year-old, 50 to 60 velocity, and how should he start this game?
I'll tell you right away, I don't coach 8-year-olds. I don't have an 8-year-old team. But I'll know from the pitching standpoint, first thing, don't worry about your velocity at 8 years old. That should be the last thing you should be worried about at 8 years old. Just one, for me, develop proper mechanics, develop the proper ways to begin driving off your back leg, creating separation, creating good direction down the mound, good linear direction. Teach these things at a time when the body's, you can teach it and implement those. So over time, when they become older, they have those proper mechanics, the proper ways to drive, the proper separation, so you can start adding, start adding strength and power, then you actually already have the right technique and everything just becomes implemented earlier. But at that age, at 8 years old, to have a speed gun out and start worrying about speed, absolutely forget it. Teach the proper mechanics, the proper way to throw a baseball, the proper positions to get into, and start developing strength.
Yeah, I don't because most of the injuries at that age are going to be growth plate injuries, and I just think that's an unfortunate injury because you're basically your body hasn't even finished growing, and you're already putting some crazy torques on it, and it's not obviously a good thing. It's not a healthy thing to do. So I hate hearing when kids rip their growth plates and have those kind of developmental issues, and I think that's just trying to do too much too early. And I think David's right. Ball speed, focusing on ball speed at a very young age can very easily push a kid into that kind of abuse before his body's done. And if we look at the first stage of all strength and conditioning programs, it's called the anatomical adaptive stage, where you're just basically prepping the body to be prepared for loading. And really, that's what we should do when the body's ready for that. And really, an 18-year-old is really not ready for loading. It's not,
an 8-year-old.
8-year-old, sorry, an 8-year-old is not ready for loading because the body is not in a position to adapt to stresses and loads because the growth plates are still open. So, yes, but I still at the same time too, of course, they shouldn't be just, doing nothing, sitting home playing video games, right? We do need to keep them active. And yeah, and we actually can kind of put them through an anatomical adaptation phase. Probably it's just going to be for a long period of time till they get up into 15, 16 years old. So that's what it should be, something very well-rounded. That's why I like with my beginner program, we do an Olympic lifting with them, even at 8. We would do broomsticks if we needed to, just to learn technique. We would do a lot of speed and agility stuff, not a lot of stress with it, just basic stuff. Then the skills of throwing, basic skills. I have just basic drills of throwing, and then make them multi-sport athletes too. I hate to see you specializing in one sport at such a young age. Get them playing all sports, because it just takes their body and it just gives it a lot of variety, and it allows it to kind of learn and adapt and understand that's where he is right now. We shouldn't really specialize and then overstress at a young age, because that's what we're going to be doing later in life, and it's going to be harder to do that later in life if we've already put all that wear and tear on the body early on at 8 years old. So I think David's correct, and I've got girls, David's got boys, so I think to him it's more personable. I don't know, with girls, I think I want them to be athletes. I'm just not going to pressure them to be athletes. I don't know, what's your perspective with your boys?
I want them to just, Brent said it perfectly, play everything, be an athlete. Get him out there and playing everything. Being a pitcher is wonderful at 8 years old, but when he's 18, there's a really good chance he's not a pitcher. I always thought I'd be a third baseman, an outfielder, and I'm a pitcher. I knew shortstops that signed in college to be a pitcher, to be a starting pitcher for a good big D1, and they end up being in the big leagues as a shortstop. So don't worry about being very specific at this age. Get them out there playing. Teach them technique, because this is stuff, I'm at 33 years old, I'm learning technique. If they have proper technique at their age, it sets them up for a huge advantage when they actually have to start growing and gaining those weights and start lifting. Without that technique, they're trying to constantly catch back up. Teach them the technique, get them out there playing everything, teach them the proper mechanics on the mound just to get in the right places, so when they are older and they can start taking those loads, or bigger, stronger, then they're already way ahead of anybody else, instead of everyone else that just gets on the mound and throws and tries to be strong. Forget about the speed gun until he's in high school, because until before then it doesn't matter. I know so many kids that were the greatest little leaguers in history, and it doesn't matter. Yeah. It really doesn't matter. Until you grow, until you hit that point, it doesn't matter at all. And then let them just be the best athlete possible, and they will fall into something athletic.
Yeah, so don't encourage them with the speeds right now. Encourage them with progress in technique, progress in basic things in strength and conditioning. Pat them on the back when they complete something, or pat them on the back when they learn technique, or they start to feel the ball correctly. Give them affirmations and stuff like that, not in speed right now in performance, because they don't need to do that to their body yet.
Yeah, when they're 8 years old, if you get them in the proper techniques, the proper positions, if they're throwing 10 miles an hour slower than anyone else, doesn't really matter. It's perfect, because when they start getting older and they start getting faster and quicker, and they're staying in those same positions, they're going to be so far ahead of all those kids that were doing it improperly but throwing hard. So just set them up down the right road, and then when they get older, they're going to continue right down that road.
And that's what you should be telling them, like, hey, don't focus on these short, goals and achievements right now. Okay, you're not throwing as hard as everyone else. Let's focus on where we're going with all this work. Let's focus on, hey, when we're 15, 16, then we can start saying, all right, we want to be at these levels, and that's what we're shooting for. But don't kind of always tell them, look where we're going, not where we are. And I think that's the best approach for the young kids, 8-year-olds especially.
The biggest problem that we see kids coming into the camps, kids coming here, is their technique. Is no mobility. They can't get to the positions they even need to get to. They might be deficient in strength. They might be deficient in size. But a lot of that strength, you can gain strength. You can gain some speed just moving around and being quicker and training yourself to be quicker. The mobility, the positioning of actually taking the loads on a mound and delivering the ball is the biggest barrier I've seen him, and it gets very frustrating, because a lot of people have these coordinations that they're set in stone, and trying to break out of it, no matter how much quicker or how much stronger, it just doesn't happen for a lot of people, and that's just that big barrier. So teach those first, and then add the strength, the speed later when they can add it.
Yeah, I would actually rather see a kid throwing slow with great mechanics at a young age than a kid throwing hard with poor mechanics, because what am I thinking? This kid's not going to last. So that's what I would encourage. I'm not worried about the speed. I just want you to look efficient. And when that happens, you're going to be sitting there going, wait till this kid is body ready to build strength and build speed and build power with that technique. And that's the other thing, is it's going to be a challenge to you to keep that technique. You're going to see a great specimen, a great prospect for the game. All right, so that was a good question. If you have another question, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at TopVelocity, #PitchAndChips. Ask your question. We'll answer it on the show. If you haven't already, go check out TopVelocity.net. Look at all of our programs. Look at our beginners program. Also, check out or reach out to David at the DA53. See you next time.
Yeah. hold on, hold on.